So for the past month, I have had the Ecovacs A2500 GOAT mowing my dad's lawn here. And today I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about this lawnmower before you pick one up. So to get all the legal stuff out of the way, Ecovacs did send me this mower free of charge in exchange for my review, but they did not tell me what I can and can't say, so my thoughts are my own. So it has been, what, about a month since we put this mower out on your lawn?
Yeah, I think it has been.
So I just wanted to go over everything that you like, anything that you don't like, anything that's odd when we're talking about what this mower has done, anything that you would want to know if you were researching this mower to buy.
Sure.
What would you want to know before you bought it? So let's start off. Obviously, this is the Ecovacs A2500 GOAT model, which I think is kind of an interesting name.
It is.
And from a high level, what is this mower?
Well, from what I have seen of it, is that it's a very good mower for a smaller area of a yard.
Okay, so
it works real well for that.
Right. So in this instance, this mower is mowing how many square feet right now?
It's about 8,000 square feet.
Okay. It doesn't have any problem keeping up with that 8,000 square feet, right?
Oh, none whatsoever.
So the way that this mower operates is that it is a RTK-based, GPS and vision enabled mower that uses all of those things to triangulate exactly where it is in your lawn at any given time. And from our experience, and correct me if I'm wrong, that part of this has worked phenomenally.
It has worked fantastically. To compare the experience with the other mower that I had, that mower didn't have any programmed patterns or anything of that nature. Everything was really random.
And so that, I think that's really the big benefit that you get from a mower like this that has systematic mowing, is that you have the ability to, through the app, send the mower out. It knows exactly where it is, it knows exactly where it's been, and it systematically goes down and back and down and back and down and back, the same way that you would if you were using a traditional lawnmower.
Right. This has that feature, and so you can actually see where it has been. You can get essentially striping out of it, which I have been very impressed with, because you can see the lines that it follows. And if you will, it has a feature on the app that allows you to say, I want you to follow this pattern all the time, or I will flip the pattern 90 degrees every week, which is what I've done. And it makes the yard look fantastic.
So comparing all the different ways that you've mowed your lawn, rotary lawnmower, wired robotic lawnmower, and now this wireless robotic mower, which mower gives you the best quality of cut?
Oh, the best quality of cut? No question, it's this particular mower. This one, I can send it out once a day. It does the entire yard in an hour and a half, not even 2 hours. And the yard stays consistently cut at the same level the entire time. And shoot, my neighbors recognize that, and they comment on the fact that, how do you do this?
Your lawn has never looked better than it has when this mows, which for you is exactly what you want. You are the ideal customer for this, right? Because you want your lawn to look good, but you also don't want to have to invest a ton of time into it. And this solves that problem for you.
100%. I don't have to worry about when am I going to mow the yard and have to schedule my week, if you will, around the idea of, oh, I've got to mow my yard on Tuesday. You know what? This guy mows it on Tuesday. mows it on Wednesday. Oh, it's raining on Thursday. Guess what? It doesn't mow. It has that capability. It has that little feature, which I love.
While we're talking about features, let's talk about the app. What are your thoughts on the app?
Well, the app is very much like most every app that we ever put on our phones, and that is, it takes just a minute to figure out where are the features that you want. In this case, I was coming from an app that was relatively simple with the wired robot that I had.
There really was no configuration with
Correct,
that
and that's
mower.
why I
You
wanted to say.
You sent it out. So this being a much more configurable mower,
More features, more things that you have to get familiar with. Didn't take much to do.
right? Pretty user friendly.
Yes. Once you figure out where the sections are, it really is very user friendly, and I have not had an issue with it in that regard. I like the little map that it shows you, that shows you exactly what it has.
Progress.
Right. What has it mowed? Like when it goes back, in my case, it goes back to the charging station one time in the course of mowing my yard. When it goes back, I can see what did it finish and what's left. I loved that feature. I thought it was great.
Right. So while you're talking about charging stations, let me tell you, this mower charges faster than any mower.
Oh my gosh.
Almost faster than any device that I have seen. A lot of these mowers take as long to charge as they do a mow cycle. So if it mows for an hour, it takes at least an hour to charge.
Yeah.
That's not the experience with this mower, right?
No, not at all.
It will go out and mow for over an hour, right?
Right.
And then it takes maybe 30 to 40 minutes to recharge.
Yeah, maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 minutes to recharge, and then it goes, then it goes back.
That's that's impressive. How was the installation process?
Installation, we had to think about it, but it really generally went pretty well. I think the biggest thing that we had to work on was where to position the RTK unit.
Right. So when you're installing an RTK unit, and this is true with any RTK system, right, you have to have a clear line of sight, and that's not unique to this. That's it holds true with this as well. So we had to find a spot to install the RTK beacon where that was possible. We were able to put it on the side of the house, back off of the wall 5 feet or so.
Yeah, it was about 5 feet.
And since we acquired all the satellites, it's been great. There's been no issues, right?
There have been zero issues with it.
I do know people who have had to mount their RTK beacon on like the eaves of their roof.
Wow.
But that was not the experience here, and it's worked fine.
It really has.
Now again, as you can see, we are in an area where there's not a lot of tree cover or anything like that where we've got the RTK beacon. So, your experience may be a little different, but for us, that was more than enough.
It was.
So once we installed the RTK beacon and had a clear view and had acquired satellites, how was the mapping process?
The mapping, we found that we had to do a lot of the mapping manually because of the nature of this yard.
Right. So now one of the features that this has that makes it unique is that there is an auto mapping feature.
Right.
Now, I've played around with mowers that have had auto mapping in the past, and this is similar to that in the fact that unless there is a very clear difference from one area to another, the auto mapping feature is just kind of a gimmick. If you have a property that is completely fenced in, maybe, I think it would be ideal for that. You could just set it out and say, hey, go map this area, and it would be perfect. But for us in this situation, we have mulch beds, which it was able to capture the mulch beds.
It did.
But the biggest issue was there's no clear delineation between your lawn and your neighbor's lawn.
Right.
So without that, we had to manually drive it there. And then switching from manual to the auto mapping is just more of a hassle than it's worth, in my opinion. Auto mapping is cool, but it just, unless there's a way for it to just do everything, I think it's not necessary.
Right. I agree with you.
So as far as mapping goes, anything that you need to be aware of when you're mapping? Or
I think the biggest thing is to understand that the unit, when it turns, needs a little more space.
Okay.
When we get to the corners of a map of the area that you're mowing, you kind of need to allow it to map it to swing just a little bit rather than trying to create a 90-degree angle.
Right. Well, and part of that is because the blades are offset back a good ways, I think.
Right.
So when it turns, those blades being offset from the front of the mower, it misses grass in that area.
Right. And that wasn't something that we knew when we did the first map.
But that being said, remapping is super simple.
Yeah, you just simply
you can delete
the map and
remap
it.
Yeah, the mapping process took us what, 20 minutes?
20 minutes at max. Yeah.
And that included creating both of the zones.
Correct.
Creating the pathway in between
the zones, yeah.
And mapping the charging station.
Right.
So, yeah. When you're talking about ease of installation, for somebody to pick this mower up off Amazon or off the Ecovacs website, start to finish, you can have it installed in your lawn in less than an hour. Let's talk about mowing, how it mows, your thoughts on the mowing, and then we'll wrap it up.
Generally speaking, this unit mows just very precisely. I never see an area that it misses. When you go to, you can tell on the map, on the app, where it has gone. It shows you specifically.
And it's really precise.
It really is. It's surprising. It surprised me how precise it is. So it does an incredibly good job of doing the coverage of everything. It looks fantastic. As I said something earlier, just my neighbors alone cannot believe how low it is and that it stays low. They love that. As a homeowner, I'm happy about that. But as far as the maintenance is concerned on the yard, I don't have to worry about it because the mower gets it all the time and there's nothing stray. So, so long as I make sure that I'm changing the blades, and the app actually will prompt you on when it thinks you should change the blades. And in my experience so far, it has been pretty close to dead on.
Right. So
long as you're changing the blades at the intervals that it's telling you, it's not going to give you a problem.
Awesome.
I've been very pleased with that.
So we've said a lot of good about this mower so far, and I honestly do believe that this is a really good robotic lawnmower. From our experience so far, what has been the biggest shortcomings or something that you think could be improved on?
I think one thing that has caught me and you, we've talked about it, a little off guard, is that with the turn radius here, when you're doing the mapping, you've got to be careful because we mapped one zone that was close to a curb.
When it tries to turn there, it has a tendency to jump off.
It did.
And so that's something that potentially we could fix by remapping that zone.
It's a change of mapping the zone, and we found that also with another part of the yard where we mapped it close to an area where I've got a hill.
Right.
And when the mower would get to that edge and begin to turn, the yard itself, the grass itself, is not as stable as it should be, and consequently it couldn't get the traction that it needed, and consequently started to go down the hill a little bit.
It's gone for a little ride down the hill a couple of times.
It has done that a couple of times.
And again, this is something that can be solved by remapping.
But that's something that you don't know. If you don't know about that,
right,
you get it.
So what I would say is, if you have an extremely hilly yard, this probably is not a great option. All right, so last thing before we wrap up, cost versus value. At the time of this filming, Ecovacs is selling this mower for right at $2,000. What are your thoughts about the price point?
From a cost perspective, for me, I look at it and say, this works pretty well for me at this point in my life. I could use a yard service. There are many in my neighborhood who use yard services, and I know how much they're being charged on a week-to-week basis. And I add up what they're being charged for their yard service, and I go, wait a minute, for less than what some of my neighbors are paying for a year's worth of mowing in their yards, I can have this do it itself.
Right.
For me, this works really well.
So, from a cost perspective, year 2, it's already paid for itself.
I want to say it's free. It's really not.
Right. But so we are kind of comparing apples and oranges here. A yard service does do things that this doesn't do.
Sure, absolutely.
So if you are thinking that you're going to buy a mower like this and you'll never have to touch your lawn again, that is certainly not the case, right?
No.
There is still edging and
Correct.
weed eating. There's certain things that this mower can't do. But what it can do, from my experience, it does really well.
It does. It does exceptionally well. And of the 3 different methods that I have used, this is by far the easiest one for me, and I love what it does for my yard and the way it makes my yard look.
So overall, this has been a really good experience with this mower. It's done a fantastic job, and I would absolutely recommend it if you are in the market for a robotic mower this season.